What's up, guys? This is Jonah Hughes with Jotivation, coming at you today with a very in-depth talk. We're going to get into some pretty deep meat stuff. I got paper with me today because we got a lot that we're going to go over. So, before I begin, I'll just say like, share, subscribe, do all the good stuff, please. Help me grow this page. And I want to share with you where I stand on the issues that are going on in today's world. So I would consider myself to be, I would say, right of center. I am not a radical Republican. I am not a radical Democrat. I would say I am conservative in a way. So just so everybody knows where I'm at, I did actually look on the Democrat website, the national website, and they supported a lot of the things that I am in favor of. One of the biggest things is they had a big push for veteran spending and veteran funding, which is something I really believe in. Help veterans out, get them jobs, get them homes. That's something good that I really like. So anyway, today, let's get into it. First thing I'm going to be talking about is the way that America and a lot of the people in America are creating division. So it seems like nowadays there are radical conservatives, radical Republicans, and then there are also radical Democrats. It seems like the media is in cahoots with that, and everybody is pushing people to be either one side of the fence or the other side of the fence, and if you're in, you're all in, and then you have to fight the other side. I don't believe that's the way it should be. I don't believe that's how America is supposed to be. Do you think it's an accident that we are being divided? Do you think that the media is in on it, and all of this is just an accident that we're somehow getting divided, and it's just, a byproduct of what's happening? Or do you think it's actually pushed and there's a reason that we're getting divided? CNN is fake news. Fox News is fake news. A lot of these main media sources: Fox News, radical right; CNN, radical left. It's just how it is. We saw that. CNN, you can see it in everything. Fox News, you saw it in the election. They were calling election results, hours before it actually was a result, and you kind of could see that some people they tend to be a little bit different leaning than you would think. Fox News is generally a conservative and Republican news source, and it seems though that they are almost trying to use that platform to be on the same deal with the other media sources, and with the division, where they are creating that division just on the other side. So all the media, you can go ahead and just discount that as fake news anyway. One thing that's kind of a truth in life is when people are divided, they are really easy to control. When people are unified, they are really hard to control. If somebody is unified, and a group of people is unified against one cause, and they are all going in the same direction, I guess you would say like rowing a boat. If they are all rowing in the same direction, it's hard for that boat to stop. That boat is not just going to stop. All the people are rowing in that direction to keep it going. Now, if somebody's rowing forwards, someone's rowing backwards, someone's rowing to the left or to the right, it's really easy for somebody to come in and manipulate that situation, and that boat is going nowhere. So that's kind of how America is right now, is we're getting a lot of people, they're rowing this way. A lot of people are rowing this other way. Now somebody's going to come in, and they're using that division to create the chaos, and then they can use that as a control tactic. So I guess another thing to say is there are good people on both sides. Just because you're a Democrat does not mean you're bad. Just because you are Republican does not mean that you are, Uncle Tom or whatever they'd call it. Just because you're Republican doesn't mean you're ultra pro-gun and, build the wall and blah, 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 all that crap that people believe that all the radicals do. People can agree with some things and they can disagree with others. I disagree with things on both sides of the party. So there are decent people on both sides. That's kind of where center is at. Even Muslim people. I have talked to Muslim people. There was, we were out kind of evangelizing, you could say. And we were flying an ISIS flag to get conversation going. And I spoke with a Muslim woman who she said, that is not what we stand for. We do not stand for ISIS. We stand for love. We stand for unity. She was had a good head on her shoulders, and she was a decent person. That's the same thing with when you see Democrats and Republicans. There are good people on both sides. So, a concept to talk about. If there are people, first of all, let's get this straight. There are people that want to kill Americans. There are. I got some family in the military, and they have seen it firsthand. There are people who want to kill Americans. And do you think, for 1 second, that when people want to kill Americans and say that somehow they get over to the U.S. and they're planning on killing a certain number of Americans, do you think for 1 second that they are going to come over and say, okay, let's kill all the Democrats first, and then we'll just rule over the Republicans? Do you think they're going to do that? Or no? That's not going to happen. They're going to come over and they're going to say, all of these people are Americans. It doesn't matter whether they're black, white, Asian, brown, Hispanic, whatever. It doesn't matter if they're Democrat. It doesn't matter if they're Republican, Muslim, conservative, liberal, anything. They're going to say, these are Americans. We're going to kill them. Everybody bleeds the same. So that is another thing, too, that needs to be pushed for the unification of America, is we're all in the same boat. We are all on the same train, going the same way. We are all in America, and we need to defend America. Just get that out there, just so everybody understands that this is something we need to do. So another thing that's happening here, I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska. Something that's happening in Lincoln is there has been an attempt to recall the mayor based on her actions for what happened during COVID, what happened with government shutdowns, what happened with the mask mandate, that it's, been pushed forever. There's a community leader, he kind of has a decent influence here. His name's Jay. He said it was a waste of time to recall her and that we just needed to come together. Now, I believe that. I believe that we do need to come together. We need to forget about all the fluff, and we need to unify in a way that is going to bring light and life into our community. What I don't agree with is that he had mentioned it was a waste of time. Now, to me, to somebody, depending on where you're standing politically or in your life, you could see that as a waste of time. I see that as the possibility of the community actually coming together as one and trying to rise up against unjust ruling in their perspective. So we have the obligation to disobey unjust laws. We are obligated to disobey anything that is unjust and un-American. So in these cases, when they see that as it is un-American and it is unjust to do this, they are coming together and rising up against that. Your view could be different than mine. That's just kind of how I see it. I didn't see it as, we hate the mayor, let's get her out. I see it as the mayor has made some decisions that we don't agree with, and because of that, let's get together and let her know that we don't agree with that, because in all reality, she serves us. She is the mayor in a government position, and she is supposed to serve the community. So that's kind of what's happening right now in Lincoln. It's been a while since that went down, and I'm not exactly sure of how it's going. But the biggest thing is we all live in Lincoln, Nebraska. all the people who live in Lincoln, Nebraska, we're all together in this. It doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or Republican or liberal or conservative. If you live in Lincoln, Nebraska, you will be affected by the rulings and the decisions in Lincoln, Nebraska. So either way, we're all in this together. So now let's get into COVID. Touchy subject, but not really. First thing, anybody remember the 2-week shutdown? There was going to be 2 weeks where we were going to shut everything down. At that time, I was still in school. It was a huge deal. We were going to shut everything down. And that was supposed to last for 2 weeks and then just, curve the spike or whatever. Well, that has turned into almost a year. And the government has imposed this on us to the point where it started out as 2 weeks. It was crazy to all of us. Well, they said 1 more week or 2 more weeks, and it was a little less crazy, but we were still mad about it. Then they said, well, 2 more weeks. And then we were just kind of like, oh my gosh, this is still happening. Then they said, okay, it's still a month. Now it's another month and another month. And slowly they are pushing us to continue to oblige to what they're saying and what they want us to do. And it has been almost a year for that. A lot of these policies, in my opinion, and I think that it is fact, a lot of these policies are nonsense. The mandate of things is nonsense. The mandate of closing businesses and requiring businesses to do certain things is nonsense. Where did our common sense policies go of, if you're sick, stay home. If you are compromised, if you have cancer and your immune system is compromised, or if you just get sick often, stay home. There are tons and tons of options for you. If you say, well, I can't stay home because I got to go get groceries, they have at-home grocery delivery. They have Instant Cart. They have, I know, Walmart does deliveries, Hy-Vee does deliveries. It's called Hy-Vee Aisles. In Lincoln, Nebraska, there's a few Hy-Vees here, and you can order online. Hy-Vee Aisles will deliver it for you. So it's not actually that hard to survive that way. If you want to eat at a restaurant, order it to go, get it delivered. You can do that. Obviously you can't go play mini golf, but that's not a necessary thing that you have to do. So all these nonsense policies that I think they maybe made sense in a time that we didn't know what was going to happen. I still don't think they should have been mandated. I think it should have been pushed and encouraged, and everyone should be educated on the effects and the risks associated with it, but they should not have been pushed. That is something I don't really agree with. I think the majority of American people are pretty smart and intelligent-ish. Our records don't show it when you look globally. On a global scale, we're not actually that intelligent. We just have a great country. So I think it should have been up to businesses to do what they wanted to and to do what each business deemed necessary, not to have the government say, you have to do this, and in order to do this, you have to wear a mask, and you have to keep 6 feet apart. I still think, even though the vaccine is out now and people are going to get the vaccine, I still think they're going to be trying to push, well, you have to wear a mask and you have to social distance. So I think that's just nonsense. One thing that I saw with that nonsense is we recently went to Texas and Georgia to visit some family, and all the flights on the planes, there's announcements over the speakers that please maintain 6-foot social distance, please keep your mask above your mouth and nose, please blah blah blah, whatever, comply with all the COVID stuff. And then they stick you on this tiny little plane, this tiny little canister of somebody who coughs, and then literally the back row can sneeze and it gets to the front row. I think that's just ridiculous, that this is such a big deal to them in the airports, but then when they get on the plane, it's well, if you have your mask on, whatever, it doesn't matter if you're basically holding the person's hand right next to you, or if they cough, it's ridiculous to me. When I was on the plane, I was just looking around at, how many people were right next to each other and touching each other. Like, there goes the social distancing. So, right there, nobody's sick that I know of, so seemed to work all right. Now, I do know COVID is real. It is an actual virus, whether it was man-made or natural, I don't know. It is an actual virus, and people have died from it, and people have died with it, which there's a huge difference there. If you're dying of heart disease, and then you get COVID, and don't show any symptoms for it, but you still have COVID, but then you die from heart disease, that's tragic, yes, absolutely. But you didn't die from COVID, you died with COVID. I believe that should be counted completely separate. There have been people who died from COVID who, people always say, well, they died of old age. Well, generally when people say they died of old age, that's like another sickness has come on them as they're old and their body just can't take it. So I think that is more of the case of they got COVID and that was the sickness. So they died from COVID. And I know there's been a lot of tragedies, but I think the numbers have been skewed, and we need to open our eyes to what the actual numbers are. We need to ask why they'll say, I check the Lancaster County COVID numbers a lot. I haven't been able to find how many tests they've taken, but I have found this week we had this many positives. So if you're looking at 300 positives, which I think was a very recent number in Lancaster County, 300 positive cases. Well, if you had 1,000 people take the test, 700 were negative, 300 were positive, that is 100% different than if you had 10,000 people take the test and 300 were positive and then 9,700 were negative. So completely different percentages. And they're really using that to maintain that manipulation, kind of keep you in the not knowing of what's actually happening and what the actual facts are. Because COVID right now has, a 99.96 or whatever % survival rate, which is phenomenal. It's great, I don't even know the numbers for flu or anything, but you have a huge chance of surviving it if you get it, but for some reason we are still shut down, and healthy people like Husker athletes, people who are at the top of their game, who are at the peak of their performance and are exercising daily and are getting on special diets and they are taking care of their bodies and their lives, they are still forced to comply with the same rules and mandates as somebody who is 200 pounds overweight and eats freaking ice cream every day and has had how many heart surgeries because of heart disease from obesity. If someone were in that case, I completely understand why you would have to take measures to ensure that you don't get COVID. If someone was an athlete and at the top of their performance and their immune system is at the peak, the smartest thing is to get COVID so you build antibodies for it. So I think it is a little bit ridiculous, and we all basically got played. We got played in the beginning. Whether you believe it is because the government was trying to see how far they could push us, maybe that's one thing. Whether it is because they're trying to kill businesses, that could be another thing. Whether it is because they're trying to get everybody reliant on the government, that could be another thing. Who knows what's actually happening, but no matter who you are, we have been played to a certain degree. COVID is real, but the extent of fear that was created and the extent of mandates and rules and laws, or not laws, but rules and rulings put into play were, that was way up here, and the actual virus is kind of like down here, and the actual effects of it. So one way or another, we all got played. It doesn't matter if you have 100 guns sitting at your house, you got played too, to some degree. You were manipulated. I was manipulated. Everybody was manipulated. Whether you voted for Biden or Trump, it doesn't matter. We were all manipulated. And on that, with Trump signing the new bill, I don't think that was the right thing either. He signed the bill and got the stimulus package, $600, $600 for everybody. Yet we're getting billions and millions or whatever going to other countries to help stimulate their economy, when our economy is kind of lacking right now, and our businesses are closing, and our people are going broke, and nobody can pay their payments or mortgages. Yet we get $600 to stimulate the economy, and other countries are getting it for, say, gender studies, which you may think it's necessary, but if you're truly in a crisis, the virus doesn't care if you are man, woman, trans, gay, whatever you are human. So the virus is going to get you also, just like it's going to get the other guy. So that was kind of unnecessary at that time. So next subject. This is something that, since I'm Christian, this is something that I like to draw parallels with the Bible and see biblical truths played out in real life. That goes with monetary things. I see that a lot. That's probably the biggest one. In this case, I'm going to be talking about Joseph and the coat of many colors, which is found in Genesis in the Old Testament of the Bible. I know a lot of people know this story, but in Genesis, when they talk about coat of many colors, let's see. So basically, Joseph was the youngest of a big family. He was the most loved by Israel, I think, which is the father. And then all the brothers hated him because of that. He was the youngest. So, long story short, they basically wanted to kill him, but they didn't kill him. They actually sold him into slavery to get some money. He went to Egypt. In Egypt, a bunch of stuff happened. He ended up being at the second in command for Egypt, under Pharaoh. And at that time, Pharaoh was a good ruler. Generally speaking, he was a good ruler. And there was a lot of Israelites around there that worked with Egypt and, helped everybody out, and they all contributed. So what happened was Joseph was very wise. He planned ahead. He basically stored up a bunch of food, a bunch of items, basically all the things that you would need if a disaster would strike. What happened then is a disaster did strike. They went into a long famine where all the Israelites in the surrounding areas did not have any crops to produce. They didn't have any money to spend. They didn't have anything. They were starving. So basically they said, if Egypt will give us our food, we will sell ourselves into slavery to work it off. Now, slavery back then was a little bit different concept. Slavery could be voluntary. So not all slavery was like, hey, we're going to trick you into working for us and then you're stuck here. It was more of a thing where if you wanted to purchase something or if you owed a debt to somebody, then you would be their slave for 7 years to pay it off. And so it was basically a mortgage, paying off a mortgage, something like that. So they basically sold themselves into slavery. Because of this, there was a great famine, they couldn't eat. Sold themselves into slavery. Then 100 years later, I don't know, some while later, the Pharaoh changed into there was a different Pharaoh. The Pharaoh was a very bad person. He basically manipulated all the Israelites and used their voluntary slavery for survival, used that to actually enslave the people. So there's a difference between the voluntary slavery and then actually enslaving people to do your work for you with no hope of getting out of there. And then that's where Exodus comes in, where Moses came, said, let my people go, that whole thing, and then the Bible continues. So the parallel that I see with this is I am not saying this is true. I am literally just drawing a parallel. I am saying this is what happened in the Bible. This is a story that happened in the Bible, something that actually happened that we learned from. Now, this is what's happening in our day right now, and this is how it correlates. So the parallel that I see is basically I see COVID as the famine, but COVID itself is not actually the famine. COVID is just a virus, but then the fear and the manipulation brought on with it is actually the famine. Now, this is my theory, you could say, but this is just what I'm seeing and something that could possibly happen. Anybody who wants to blast me for this, I don't really care, just because this is my opinion and this is something that I see could potentially happen because the government could be in the position for it. Now, the famine, which is the fear of COVID and the fear of getting sick and the anger brought on by, you don't see someone wearing a mask and you gotta go punch them in the face because they're gonna get you sick. So what happened is, or what I see is that the government is using that fear, manipulating people, basically telling the small businesses that they need to close, telling other people that they can't go to work, they are not having money. All these small businesses are closing. Nobody can pay their bills. Now they have to go to the government to ask them and say, hey, please help us, we'll pay you back. The same thing as, hey, we have nothing to eat, we'll be your slaves to pay it off. So the government is trying to get people to become reliant on them. That way they can control them, which in Israel's case, in all the Israelites' case, that didn't end up very well. In America's case, it might not end up very well either. So I ask that you please kind of open your mind to this. One thing that I've learned basically people in positions of power, they're not stupid. They may look stupid, but they got there for some reason. And they know things that we might not think they know. And the coat of many colors story of how Egypt enslaved all the Israelites could be a valuable lesson for somebody who wants to control the general population of people. And someone could definitely use that as a way to bring on that control. So that's really my theory with it. That's something I could see potentially happening. I really hope that everyone can open their minds to that and kind of see that it is possible and to be wary of it and to watch out for it. And because of that, it is vitally important that we spend the money that we have to help small businesses out and to help them stay alive. And if somebody wants to say, no, I don't agree with what the government is trying to push on me, we should support that because that's America. That's what we did in 1776, around there. That's what we did back then, was we don't like what you are doing because we think it is unfair and unjust. So we are going to push back because that is who we are as a people. We are a free people, and potentially it could become to the point where we are not a free people because of what could happen during this pandemic. One quote from Ronald Reagan, which I thought was very interesting. Now, Ronald Reagan was a president. I don't know which one. But he said, "The most terrifying words in the English language are, 'I'm from the government and I'm here to help.'" I don't know the context in which that was put, but he was a president, which is the leader of the government, saying the most terrifying thing that you could say is, we are from the government, we're going to help you. That doesn't sit well with me. I would assume that he knows a little bit what he's talking about. But if you think for 1 second that the government actually has your well-being in mind, it's even, I hate to say this, well, I don't really, but even Donald Trump, if you think that he is actually, him and his administration, I think he's done a lot of really, really great things. And I think he kind of has the right mindset. Some things I don't agree with. But anybody way up there that has those positions of power, Joe Biden had recently said something about we got you on the list and we're going to help you out and help is on the way. Do you think he actually has your well-being in mind? Do you think for 1 second these people, positions of power way up there that associate with all the great rich people of the world, actually have you, who maybe lives in a trailer home? I don't know. They have you in mind and your well-being and hey, how are we going to help this person out? You've got your head in the sand. The government is there to serve us, but we also rule the government. The government keeps everything together, and it is a central ruling system for us, but we support the government, and we as a people are united to keep the government running for our benefit, not for the government's benefit. It's all for our benefit. So we have to keep in mind that we are the government, and we as a people are supposed to make the rules, and we can't let elites or whoever you would call it just take over. One I see is Mark Zuckerberg. He was saying he became a billionaire by the time he was 20 something. He didn't have a normal life. He didn't have the life where he knew man, how am I going to pay my bill next month? I guess I better go work. Maybe I'll shop at Goodwill. Maybe I'll do that. He didn't have that. Yet, for some reason, he is one of these world leaders who says, hey, I know how it feels to be that guy who is living in the trailer home and or the single mom who is struggling with 3 jobs and 2 kids. He doesn't know that, yet somehow we trust him as a leader to keep all that we have in control. So we need to keep our mind open to that. The last topic that we have, and you might hear my cat meowing, she's clingy. So the last topic that I have to talk about is the election fraud. Now, I am not claiming that, Trump, the whole stop the steal thing. I'm not claiming that Biden is innocent. I'm not claiming that Biden or his team or anybody is guilty. All I'm saying is that there was a question of election fraud. A question where there were facts presented, certain people, the vote counters, they tried to hide and board up windows in certain areas, and certain numbers did not look right. And I know in one area there was more votes than there were people for that area. How does that happen? I know a lot of people have said there have been cases of votes being thrown out and all of them were pro-Trump, whatever. Basically, the concept is this. Any push and any interference in our electoral system should piss you off. It should get under your skin to know that somebody is out there not caring about your individual vote and your right as an American to vote on our government and the power that you have. To me, it makes me seem helpless, and I feel helpless because I went and voted, and now it's I don't even know if my vote was in the system. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but there is a question of that. There's just the question of that happening. So that is a problem. My cat's screwing with all my window or on my doorstep, so it's a little bit annoying. Anyway, so that's as an American people, it doesn't matter whether you're Democrat, Republican, whatever. That should piss you off that we as American people are, there is a question of getting screwed over by the system. As a closing, I just want to remind you guys that the American flag is not racist or tyrannical. Everyone who flies the American flag does not have to have 100,000 guns and does not have to be, pro whatever. It's not the case. The American flag is something that unites us as an American people. It signifies freedom. All these people in other countries that are saying like, hey, we hate our government, we're going to have an uprising. They're not flying their flag because it doesn't stand for anything. They're flying the American flag, chanting USA, because of the ideals and the things that we stand for. So, I'm losing all my papers. So, one thing I want you to know is if Biden does become president, if it is a clean sweep and he truly comes in and he is the leader and he's the guy, then I will take that and I will understand it and I will be pro-Biden if Biden is pro-America. I don't care if the president is Republican or Democrat, whatever, as long as they are doing the things that will benefit America first before even their well-being. If they are doing the things that are going to keep America on top and are going to promote the freedom of America, then I will be for whoever that is, because I am pro-America. I want America to be the best that it can be. I want to see all the people around me succeed. I want to see everyone around me hit their dreams and their goals and everything they want to accomplish in their life. And in order to do that, we have to all be united together to serve America and to serve our neighbor, not just to think about like, hey, how much money am I getting? What am I getting out of this? It's what can I do for other people around me? How can we come together? It doesn't matter what color you are, or what political party you associate with. We have to come together because of this. So I just remind you, go out and support your small businesses wherever you're at. Hopefully this video gets out to other states too. I hope you can support them. Again, please like, share, and subscribe to my page, which is Jotivation. Yeah, so as a last thought, I have a challenge for you guys. And it's basically, my goodness, I'm sorry, it's my cats. So the challenge for you guys is basically, if you consider yourself a decent person, whether Democrat or Republican, whatever you are, go out and make friends with somebody. Go out and find a friend and have a conversation with somebody who maybe doesn't agree with everything that you stand for or everything that you believe. But by doing this, you can challenge them and they can challenge you, which I have found is the best way to get more knowledge and to become stronger in whatever you do. And basically go out and have a conversation with those people and go have a good time, go make some friends, do whatever you're gonna do. But in doing this, we can all come together and we can all get unified and strengthened for whatever we do. So, as a last thought, go help somebody, go be nice to somebody, go smile at somebody. And even if you don't agree with somebody, support them because they are human and support them because they are American, and we're all in this together. So it was great talking to you guys. Again, sorry about the cats. They're kind of crazy right now and they're clingy because I locked myself in my office. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Thanks for all your support. Hope this can blow up. But anyway, we'll talk later. Thank you. You say it's nothing, but it never ever changes. Just like